We'll be waiting for just 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll start the session. So, okay, now we are going to start the session. So today's session is about polity. And one thing I must clear to all the students, that polity is the easiest topic in UPSC preparation. As far as questions are concerned, nearly 8 to 10 questions minimum 8 to 10 questions are concerned. And on a good day, you may be getting 10 to 14 questions. And you just have to make sure that you have to mark every question correct, because that is the differentiating factor between a person who is going to clear the exam and the person who may be flunking. Why I'm saying this? Because the questions are so easy that any student who has prepared at an optimum level can easily solve the question. But out of curiosity or out of wrong strategy, if you follow the studies in a different manner, then there are chances that you may be spending too much time on preparing that topic, and also there are chances that you may mark the wrong answer. And I must admit that out of the 6 attempts I faced, I have never marked any incorrect answer on as far as polity questions are concerned. There was 100% accuracy in case of polity questions. And that's not only my case. Many students I have talked with, many students who clear prelims frequently, they repeat the same thing, that they have never marked any wrong answer in polity. So now we are going to discuss that how to go about the preparation of polity section. So we are going to deal in 3 phases. First, we are going to see what are the types of questions that are coming in the exam. Fine. So as far as type of questions are concerned, there are mainly 3 types of questions that appear in the exam. One is the provision specific. For example, that who impeaches president, or what is the procedure of amendment, or simply what kind of emergency can be imposed if there is threat to financial stability and credit of India, and other things. The second is the analytical based questions, like what is the meaning of liberty, or what is the meaning of fraternity, these kind of questions. And third is the current affairs based questions. For example, this time they asked about what is the difference between police custody and judicial custody. Similarly, in I guess 2019, they asked something about Judges Inquiry Act, and the things they have mentioned in the option, you won't be finding them in Lakshmikant. They were simply in the news, and that's why they asked in the exam. And many people don't follow newspapers or news in that fashion, so they weren't able to mark the correct answer. Fine. So these are the 3 types of questions, and I must admit that the most difficult part, because see, the questions from the current affairs are limited. They can come 1 year, they may not come in the next year. But the type of questions which most people are facing the problem are the analytical based or terms based question. That what is the meaning of limited government, or what is the meaning of liberty? These kind of questions are a kind of headache for the students. Fine. So we'll be dealing with what is the approach to cover those questions. And the third, that is provision based questions. If you follow the basic approach, revise multiple times, practice some questions, then you just remain sure that you will be easily marking the answers correctly in the exam. Fine. Now we are going to see the approach, that what is the approach one should follow for marking the correct answer or for preparing the polity section. First, the basic thing. Out of the 10 to 12 questions that are being asked in these years, nearly 5 to 6 questions are basic. Basic in the sense, whatever basic source you are following, maybe the original Indian Constitution, or maybe Lakshmikant, you can simply mark the correct answer by reading them. They are so basic that, for example, they can be asked, a question can be asked that who impeaches president, or what is the procedure of election of president. These kind of questions, if you revise the basic source multiple times, then you will be easily able to mark the right answer. And see, there are few things that as far as Lakshmikant is concerned, they give some extra material. They give some extra material or extra information. So I didn't used to refer Lakshmikant. I used to refer Bare Act, that is the original constitution, and it would take me nearly 3 to 4 hours to complete the whole Bare Act during the time of examinations, because I have revised them multiple times. And so the same approach can be followed with M. Lakshmikant also. I'm saying this because many students follow Lakshmikant. That's why there is no need to change the source at the time of exam. So what you can do is that whenever you read a chapter from M. Lakshmikant, especially the provision specific or the constitution based chapters like amendment, emergency, and other things, what you can do is mark the selective things. For example, in case of financial emergency, what is the time limit for reconsideration by the parliament? Similarly, in case of state emergency, what is the time of reconsideration of parliament, or whether laws of the parliament are applicable indefinitely in case of state legislature, or in case of states if there is imposition of president rule. Similar with case with the national emergency, or similarly in case of fundamental rights, that okay, what are the grounds on the basis of which right to freedom of speech can be restricted. Only pinpointed things. You don't have to study, you don't have to read word by word. Mark the pinpointed things. That's why I like Bare Act, because they have written pinpointed things. And anything beyond that, you can be aware if you have simply go through Lakshmikant once or twice. Fine. So just try to have an orientation that whenever you study a chapter from Lakshmikant, since it is a bulky book, and also the content is keeping on increasing every year, but the questions are not increasing in that fashion. So rather than spending time disproportionately on polity, that too in wrong orientation, it's better that you prepare yourself so that during the last month of exam, what you would be doing, you would be able to revise the polity section in nearly 5 to 6 hours maximum, not more than that. And I'm especially pinpointing three chapters, that is parliament, judiciary, that is Supreme Court, and fundamental rights. These three chapters are of such nature that questions in mains every year, 1 to 2 questions would come from this section. And even in prelims, if you follow the past 4 to 5 years question, you'd be finding that 1 to 2 questions or 3 questions every year come from this part. So since the bulkiness of the book is continuously increasing, what you can do is you can prioritize the chapters, that okay, we'll be prioritizing these chapters, and we'll be trying to have command. Polity is the chapter of parliament is given in nearly 46 to 50 pages, and the content there is quite good. So I used to especially devote nearly half an hour to 1 hour to specially study the chapter on parliament. And same thing can be applied in case of state legislature, though it may not be that important. But still, you have to cover them from basics. Fine. And focus on provisions. The thing I am mentioning it again and again is due to bulkiness of M. Lakshmikant. Focus on provision. Don't get disoriented with the content or the statement kind of thing in Lakshmikant. Focus on provision. Highlight them with highlighter or mark them and use the space provided at the top of the chapter to mention the key points. For example, what kind of majority is applied for impeachment of president, that is two-thirds of the house. Similarly, what kind of majority is applied for the amendment procedure. Those kind of things, you can mark them at the top of the chapter and you can easily cover them. So just try to develop a system so that your revision becomes an easy thing. Fine. The second type of question, that is the analytical based or terms based question, they are actually the major hiccup for students these days. So what I'm suggesting is that first of all, you have to be clear about the basics. And what can be the source for covering the basics? Simply M. Lakshmikant. You just have to be clear about the terms, that what is sovereignty, what is secularism, or what is republic, what is democracy, those kind of things. Second thing is, You just have to analyze the past 5 to 6 years paper. Because see, I guess in 2019, in 2019 they asked what is constitutionalism, and in 2020 they asked something like what is limited government. These kind of things keep on frequently appearing in the exam. Fine. So these kind of questions can be covered if you follow the pattern of past year papers. And in analyzing the past year papers, you have to focus on one thing, that the questions that are being asked, as far as interpretation thing is concerned, you have to take the broadest interpretation. Because see, you must be aware, because I have studied law, that's why I'm trying to explain you the logic for this. Because see, as far as other constitutions are concerned, especially the US Constitution, it mainly consists of 10 or 11 articles. Same goes with other major countries who have the constitution. Our constitution is the world's largest constitution. So many restrictions have been already provided in the constitution. So if we start applying all the restrictions, then the enjoyment of fundamental rights would be restricted. So the Supreme Court has interpreted all the provisions in such a way that we'd be giving primacy to the enjoyment of fundamental rights to the maximum possible extent. Take the example of the question asked in, I guess, 2019, that what is the meaning of liberty? And out of all the options provided, there were two options which were quite confusing. One is the absence of restraint, and second is the opportunity to develop oneself. As far as absence of restraint is concerned, you can simply eliminate it by thinking that, okay, if we agree with the statement that there is absence of restraint, then what about the reasonable restrictions we impose on fundamental rights? So this statement can be neglected. And as far as I have already mentioned that you have to take the positive meaning, which gives all the provisions an equal importance. Fine. So an opportunity to develop one's personality goes with the spirit of the constitution. So you have to mark in this fashion. Fine. So you have to think about two things. One, covering the basics from N. Lakshmikant, whatever terms they are that is mentioned. And second, practice questions, so that at least these kind of questions, like what are the features of parliamentary democracy, or what are the features of presidential system, or the terms kind of question, you'll be able to apply the basic concepts as per the demand of the question. Fine. Now the third thing is the current affairs based question. As far as current affairs based questions are concerned, they are not too frequent. For example, yesterday I was seeing in the Telegram group, one girl talked about whether private bills have been passed, whether no private bills have been passed in 1970. So these kind of factual questions can come in the exam. So what you can do is you have to be vigilant while reading newspaper. And also one more thing, don't spend too much time on the newspaper thinking that, okay, questions can come from the politics section if I read from the newspaper itself. Fine. So rather be choosy with respect to that and focus on the basic thing. As far as current affairs things are concerned, we'll be providing that in the group itself. Any important news or snippets which are important, we'll be providing in the group itself. So follow that and rather focus on the static things which are present there in Lakshmikant. And if you have time, you have plenty of time now, that's why I'm suggesting, if you have time, what you can do is you can go through the Indian Constitution at work NCERT class 11. You can go through it once in a light manner so that you can understand the ethos of our constitution. Fine, that would help you in solving the questions in exam hall. Fine. The other thing which I think is very important is that I have told you earlier also that there are 3 chapters which are very important. While analyzing the previous year questions, you'll be finding the 3 chapters, that is Parliament, Judiciary, and Fundamental Rights. Try to spend some time on those chapters and have an orientation that what are the current things that are coming up. For example, I think last year or last to last year there was a question that whether right to marriage or right to marry comes under which article. Fine. So those kind of questions you can cover if you did Lakshmikant properly or follow newspapers. Fine. The other important trend which I am seeing these days is that there are some article-based questions also coming up. For example, they asked some years back about Article 142. So these kind of questions are coming up. So even if you are vigilant as far as articles are concerned, you can easily mark, because suppose there is an Article 142, Article 130. If you have read the Lakshmikant properly, you'll be certain that, okay, the chapter of judiciary comes under this article. So the options they are giving not specific, rather the options are such that okay, one thing comes from parliament, one thing comes from state legislature, one thing comes from president, and one thing comes from judiciary. So wide options are coming, so you can easily mark the answer. And the important section from where they are asking the questions, as far as article numbers are concerned, is judiciary, the Supreme Court. You don't need to think about High Court as far as article numbers are concerned. Only the 13, 15 important articles of the judiciary you have to remember by number. Fine, and they are very simple. So you can do this way. And the last thing which I am going to tell you about preparation of polity. See, you read any book 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. There are chances that your mind keeps on picking the same thing every time you are studying. So rather than studying the same source again and again, try to do it in a smart way. And what is the smart way? You read a book, or you read a chapter, or you prepare a few chapters in a bunch, and try to solve questions. And there is a difference between practicing questions or practicing question bank and solving a test paper. You can practice questions by solving a test paper itself, but the most important thing is you don't have to think about whether what kind of score I'm going to get. That is not your concern right now. You have to simply take a test paper and try to solve questions without thinking that what kind of marks I'm going to get. Rather, focus on the areas which you are thinking that okay, I'm missing this thing. And especially in polity, because see, reading is limited. There is limited book you have to follow. And if you practice questions, so the innovative kind of question, that is the terms-based questions or the nitty-gritties of the chapter, that can be covered from the question paper itself. Fine. So this is all from my side. The another important thing that can be discussed later on also, but I'm simply mentioning you that the kind of questions that are coming up in polity, you have to have 100% accuracy. Fine. So in terms of, or in the wake of having 100% accuracy, don't burden yourself by reading every word or by trying to do overkill in preparation. Fine. There are questions that you may mark incorrect answer if they are tough, but try to have maximum accuracy in those questions. And don't take undue pressure just for the sake of having 100% accuracy. Fine. This is all from my side until now. And I'm giving the mic to all of you that if you want to ask any question, so please ask so that I can give pinpointed answers to those questions. Ask any question, if any kind of doubt you are having, especially with regard to polity, and as far as from preparation point of view. Okay. So if you don't ask questions, then I'll be asking questions, that too in the exam. So just be prepared and try to make your study in that fashion so that you'll be able to revise the things in the last moment. See, just be clear that whatever thing you are going to prepare in these 4 months, you won't be able to revise every word by word in the time of exam. So rather than trying to go haywire in preparation, just make sure that your preparation should be such that your mind doesn't get cluttered during the last week or last month of preparation. So you don't get confused that okay, what is the thing or how I should prepare. The strategy of preparation should be finalized in these months, and the time of execution, you just have to be patient and confident. Fine. So again, I'm offering you that if you want to ask any question or if you have any issues, then you can ask. One thing I'm going to provide in the channel itself, the important chapters, because I think there are some chapters in the Lakshmikant, it's better that you don't look at them. They are not relevant as far as exam point of view, or they can be covered from current affairs itself. So I think rather than trying to cover every chapter with equal importance, it's better that you focus on few chapters, or not few chapters, the 20, 30 important chapters, and try to just have a glance over the less relevant chapters. Fine. And there is one section which I used to overhype in preparation, that is the non-constitutional bodies, because constitutional bodies are mainly of similar nature, and I used to follow the original constitution, so that can be covered quite easily. And the nature of functions or the kind of procedures for appointment and removal are similar in some cases, so you can easily prepare. And as far as the bodies are concerned, just try to have an idea. And what you can do in Lakshmikant, at the beginning of the chapter, there is space provided at the top. So whatever the important things, that okay, appointment, terms of service or service conditions, what is the qualification required, and how it can be impeached, both for constitutional and non-constitutional bodies, you can write at the top of the chapter, so that it would take nearly 30 to 40 seconds to revise that portion before the exam. So just do that thing. At the top of the chapter, where the chapter is going to start, there is sufficient space provided. Read the chapter and create the structure that okay, terms this, term is this, or the conditions of service conditions is this, qualification is this, removal process is this, and some important functions, if you want, you can write them. Fine. So in this way, you are just trying to make your revision process simple. Fine. And as far as non-constitutional bodies are concerned, read it in a smart manner, because as far as UPSC is concerned, they have written polity. Lakshmikant has tried to increase the syllabus by increasing the chapter. UPSC is not doing the same. If you analyze the previous year questions, and I'll be trying to take a session for previous year questions also, so that I'll be showing you that what kind of questions are coming and how to approach them in the exam hall. That is the most important thing, because whatever you prepare, you have to apply your mind in the exam hall. So I'll be taking a strategy session, especially dedicated to the application of mind in the exam hall. Fine. So just be patient with respect to that. So again, I'm telling, any question you want to ask, please ask. So last thing before concluding, I'm again going to repeat that read from the basic source, try to revise. There are questions provided at the back of Lakshmikant, that is the previous year questions, and also some practice questions. I remembered every article from the Constitution by practicing the questions that are presented by Lakshmikant at the back end of the chapters, at the back end of the book. So you can do that and try to practice questions. Take a test paper if you have read at least one time or two times the relevant things from the Lakshmikant. Pick a test paper from the internet and practice it, just for the sake of practicing and finding out the areas which you are not able to mark the right answer, or you are finding it difficult in preparing. Fine. So that's all from my side, and I'll be waiting just for 1 minute. That if any one of you want to ask any question, then fine. Then otherwise, I'll be concluding the session in 1 minute. Okay. And last thing I would like to say that polity is an easy section. Most of you may have prepared it earlier also, and don't get overconfident, because I have seen people who think that because of their past experiences, they think that what is the need to spend so much time on polity. So what they used to do is they used to give very less time on preparing polity, or they simply leave the revision thing and simply go to the exam hall thinking that okay, I'll be able to manage the polity questions. But in the exam hall, what happens is, due to the pressure situation, what happens is you may be having a tendency to flunk in easy questions. For example, one of my friends who used to have law optional also, he marked the question incorrect. That was that whether DPSP is enforceable by legislature, enforceable by executive, enforceable by judiciary. So he marked that okay, DPSP is not enforceable by legislature, by judiciary, because that is the common sentence we hear, but it is enforceable by legislature and executive. So that is also wrong answer. As we all know, that DPSP is not enforceable by any body. Fine. So you just have to be patient and just have to be calm in that you don't get overconfident, especially with respect to polity. Fine, and just try to make yourself prepare that all the 10 to 14 questions that would come in the exam, you have to mark the answer correctly. Fine. So that's all from my side. I think we can end the session now. Should I end? Okay. Okay. We are ending the session. Thank you.